Can you tell us a little bit about playing Herbert Biberman and the film itself?
Oh, okay, Ariana. Let's see. Well, the film itself is about this real life fella, Herbert Biberman, who was one of the Hollywood 10, who were those 10 persecuted people sent to jail for standing by their beliefs, even under pressure, during the blacklist period. And Herbert was a fellow of unique passion and romance for his wife, and energy and fighting spirit. And that's what it's about. You know, so we follow him go to get into trouble for his beliefs and go through this period and then go to jail, of course. And then afterwards sort of forge this, independent film path. There were real people, these miners, they're putting on a strike. And anyway, you saw the movie. That's what it's about somebody who fights. He was a fighter. I read his book. There were books about him. He was amazing. I mean, not only did he, before the movie takes place, he was a passionate, for the underdog, for those, the civil rights and workers' rights and all sorts of, and women's rights, all sorts of things that they devoted, the causes that they devoted themselves. He was an activist, a real sort of activist. And then all this thing came about, and they were put to the test, and he stood up with a kind of a vehemence and strength, and then went to jail, and then afterwards made this movie, struggled to make this independent movie when Hollywood wanted to shut him down and burn him out, shoot him out, and slander his name. But he made it, and then they didn't want to show it. What our movie doesn't go into is afterwards they wouldn't show it. It got made, but they wouldn't. They got all the exhibitors and all the to not show it, and he went to city after city and tried to open it and fought for years, and would send back. I had a whole bunch of his original letters that he sent back to his wife and kids. He was great. He was eloquent, and articulate, and would write these letters to his wife, these romantic letters to his wife. Not that should be surprising, but it was sweet and uncommon. The real depth of his passion for his family, but he was on the road doing these things. Oh, they tried to kill him, and he fought like 1,000 tigers. Yeah, fabulous. It was creative and challenging. I loved being in Spain. I'd made a couple of movies there before. Fernando Trueba was one of the world's great directors who I worked with before several years ago, and then I made another movie there. And but yeah, we had to shoot this American story. Madrid was Hollywood, but they were very clever. They did it in a nice way. And then the south of Spain, part of our story takes place in New Mexico. That's right. And so we went to the south of Spain, which looked like New Mexico did then, too, in the 50s and stuff. And so that was right. And then. People seem to have an understanding of it, and even though the director is Welsh, I think, but so he's not Spanish, not American, but the story is kind of universal. That's what I'm trying to say. And he grew up in a small kind of, I think, coal mining community, and has political DNA in him that is very parallel to this story about the workers and common man's fight, So he was very genuine about that. And it seemed like the people who and Spain has a history of standing up and fighting for their beliefs. And so it seemed right. Yes, he is a kind of a Don Quixote kind of. Sometimes he can be a little blurry, because of the singular focus of his fight. That's true. Although finally, he's saying to his wife, that's a complicated little wrinkle in the story, isn't it? Where he sacrifices something that his wife wants for the greater principle that they're both married to, really. But I think what he did is finally, heroic, and probably she found inspiration and strength from, instead of being careerist, or even careerist on behalf of his wife, he chose the more difficult and higher path, you know. But what were you saying about?
About mannerisms.
Oh, yeah. And so mannerisms. Well, you know, I immersed myself in reading about him and talking to some relatives of his, people who knew him and stuff, and tried to find the essential things operating in him that I could relate to, that could operate in me, but also. Without doing an impersonation of him, really, because he's not widely known and stuff. But the footage that I had of him, that maybe you've seen of him, or maybe not, testifying in front of HUAC, which we kind of recreate. It's not exactly transcribed, but we kind of recreate. I watched many, many times, and it's kind of helped shape it a little so that it was a kind of. I sort of did as good a version of. What it felt like was essentially him as I could. You know. There's only admirable things that one can get from Herbert Biberman and the people during dark times who managed to hang on to bright and deeply felt principles and fight for them. And you know, I would hope that I would, you know, have been encouraged from that, and am caused to participate when I can in things where I can feel like I can make a difference. I'm kind of actively involved in different things, but even my teaching, yeah. I mean, if it reinforced, you know. Before then, I've always been a person of kind of, you know, I wanted to be an actor, you know, and there are things that I believe in that I've kind of fought for, struggled for. It's true. Maybe not in as difficult circumstances as many, I'm sure, certainly now. But hopefully, I do the right things when faced. It's probably what comes my way. It's probably, even though I try to kind of skew it sometimes as straight as I can, it probably gets infected with some of my own eccentricities, although it's been difficult to admit that sometimes, but I'm probably not the, you know, most conventional person around. There's probably nothing wrong with that, so parts probably get, you know, some of the fumes from that to good effect or not. I don't know. Well, you know, it would be vain to say that you know, because he's such an admirable and sort of terrific figure. But I must say, the parts where Herbert Biberman was directing with a passion, you know, I teach acting for the last 10 or 15 years at this place called Playhouse West in North Hollywood. And it reminded me, I sort of used I liked doing those scenes where I was directing the actors, and it sort of reminded me of the way I am in class. I'm joyful, I have fun, I love to do it, and I'm often very stirred up. No, well, I've never done it for money much anyway, but to answer seriously, I love to teach, and it's not as if it interrupts my day. It's not as if, hey, here I am in the pool on the raft, I'd really rather be doing this. I guess you know, it's not a chore at all. The part of the day that I look forward to most is I guess a couple of other things. Teaching. Oh, I love to do that. First of all, I'm trying to get better myself, and it feels like as I, you know, teach, I learn more about it myself, and if not learn, at least keep myself conditioned. And you know, if I'm not doing a movie, and sometimes there's periods when I'm not, I want to act. You know, dancers dance, musicians play music and stuff, but actors, it feels like to me, I want to keep doing it as part of my daily life. So that's why I do it, and it's delicious. You know, I mean, I kind of, they're 3-hour classes, and I act with them. I do these improvisations kind of with them as I'm teaching them, as part of teaching them, and get exposed to more material that I wouldn't necessarily be getting exposed to, and have to try to figure it out and act it myself, and then just working with them, forgetting about myself for a while and trying to figure out what best who they best can be as actors, who they are, and how they need to be nurtured is just a great, delightful little opportunity. Learn, yes, I want to learn everything. Well, you can't learn everything. That's the sad thing. I mean, you know, who knows when your time is coming anyway. But even if I had a nice full lifetime, I mean, I'll never play the violin probably, or you have to choose. I can't even read all the books that have been written. I can't even hear all the music. You have to kind of choose. It's a sad thing. I can't meet all the people that you know. But I like to do a lot of things. You know, oh, I'd like to do, you know, I like my garden, I must say. I'd like to see my trees that I've just planted in the last couple of years grow up. And they'll keep growing after, even if I live a nice full lifetime, they'll keep growing. I planted these trees that are that takes, you know, in 50 years they'll still be growing. And I kind of look at the hillside and I imagine what it'll look like, and I get some pleasure out of that.